at that time, that was my very first experience that God is real.
She discovered she had a gift to foretell the future. Some started calling her a witch, a title she would embrace for several years.
I said, Jesus, forgive me for everything that I have done. And I really want to follow you. I want to serve you.
She's an award-winning worship leader, singer-songwriter, doing great things with NGOs all over Africa. She sang alongside some of the biggest names. She's toured America, doing incredible things.
Ili kupata skiza tune ya Sitoki Jikoni kwenye simu yako, dial *811 *816#.
We, umeingiaje kwa hii jikoni?
Wewe achana bwana, wewe ujui tulitokea wapi? Acha hata wewe toka hapa.
Wacha upuzi yako hiyo. Toka nje bwana.
Hii jikoni niko hapa ndani. Na nitakaa hapa ili make decision.
Wacha maneno yako bwana, toka nje bwana. Wewe unajua tulijenga hapa watu wawili jikoni.
Wewe kwa wakati nilikuwa naandikishana contract ya kufanya kazi kwa hii jikoni.
Wewe toka bwana, wacha
kupata skiza tune hiyo ya Sitoki Jikoni, dial *811 *816#.
Attention family. Once beaten, twice shy.
I am here to make money, so you better get your act together.
I want nothing to do with the company. Not now, never.
I need to think about it.
Don't take long.
You're forgetting I'm Njuguna.
Have you been living in a hole or something?
No.
What choice does he have?
Someone ran over Rogelio, and it seems like it's really serious.
We have to investigate Mr. Demian Ferrer.
I think there's something here that just doesn't ring right. Don't you agree?
But you didn't kill the man. And he's in intensive care right now. I saw you hugging Denise, Leonardo. And from what I can see, you took my advice in through one ear and let it out the other.
Take care of him, please.
Don't worry, Santi will do just fine.
Lying heart.
With over 2.4 million operators and a network that covers the entire nation, the Boda Boda subsector has revolutionized transport experience in Kenya. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The Boda Boda Story, a 4-part special series beginning this Thursday on KBC Channel 1 News. Don't miss the Boda Boda Story, a real story of our times.
It is day 21 of the Russian-Ukrainian crisis, and this is already roiling the global market and, of course, upending the global geopolitics. Here in Kenya, we've started to feel the impact of this crisis. Only 2 days ago, fuel prices went up for the first time since October this year by 5 shillings. And analysts are warning that we haven't seen the worst yet. Fuel prices are likely to skyrocket and go out of the roof. The question is this: how bad will the situation get? And still, because of the impact of what we are having in the Far East, wheat prices have continued to appreciate, and now a 2 kg packet of wheat flour is now retailing at 190 shillings. Oh dear, up from 155 shillings 3 weeks ago. this is likely to spiral out of control, bearing in mind that Russia and Ukraine are major producers of wheat in the world. Good morning. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. This is the only channel where you can get a dose of geopolitics and, of course, a feeling of what is happening here in Kenya. It's BizCheck, and you know for sure that our reporters are spread around the country, and we'll be linking up with them to give us the latest from where they are. My name is O'Brien Kimani, and also on this program, we shall be having some very interesting conversation around coffee. That's right. You know that the government has accelerated reforms in the coffee subsector, and farmers are starting to bear fruit. I'll be joined by one person who is in charge of this reform agenda. And then later on, we shall be discussing the impact of innovation on small, medium enterprises in Kenya. Some very interesting facts is about 80% of all businesses in Kenya are considered to be SMEs. And they employ almost 90% of Kenyan workforce. That's quite a significant component of the Kenyan economy. So we'll be looking at how innovation is likely to drive their growth going forward, because if you do not innovate, you are surely going to perish. This is BizCheck. Let's first of all go to the interview. Very good. You know that, Kenya was once a major producer of coffee in the world. And actually, in 1989, during what was referred to as the coffee boom era, Kenya exported about 128,000 metric tons of the black gold to the world, becoming a major earner of forex in the Republic of Kenya. However, the sector has gone through what we call booms and busts, and today the country at best can only produce about 40,000 metric tons annually. Well, this has been as a result of complicated web of cartels and, of course, falling global prices of coffee. And this has somehow dampened the spirit of coffee farmers in Kenya, because as we stand now, statistics will tell you that about the average age of a Kenyan coffee farmer is about 60 years. There are serious efforts that are geared towards ensuring that young people embrace coffee farming in this country, because ultimately they are the future of coffee farming in this country. And we saw in 2016, President Uhuru Kenyatta set up a coffee task force that was supposed to guide on the way forward. And they came up with a report that was supposed to be implemented, and the question is, has this report seen the light of the day, bearing in mind that as a country we have a reputation of coming up with some very beautiful, well-articulated documents that do not see the end of the light. This morning I'm joined by Professor Joseph Kieya. He's the chairperson of the Coffee Subsector Reforms Implementation Standing Committee that was appointed by President Uhuru Kenyatta in 2016 to drive the coffee reform agenda. He's also part of, and this committee is domiciled at the Executive Office of the President. So you can imagine they have the ear and the eye of the highest office on the land. So they don't have any excuse not to deliver. Kieya, thank you very much indeed for finding time to be with us. And of course, this is not the first time that we are chatting with you. But first of all, I want to take you back to the year 2016, when, you were given this tough assignment, of steering the coffee fortunes in this country. When you look back, what would you say has been one of your biggest achievements yet?
First of all, Brian, thank you for having me here. And just to come and discuss this important issue. Obviously, the credit goes to the president. As you rightly stated, he appointed task force, 2016, and basically the mandate to conduct a rigorous value chain analysis, basically to find out, which is almost like a paradox. You have a Kenyan coffee fetching premium prices globally, but that prices are not reflected to the farmer down there. So what we did, we just, in a very simple way, followed the coffee from the seed all the way up to green coffee, and then also followed the money. Answering your question in terms of what we have really done is we have been able to lay out a legal framework that is embedded or embodied in two pieces of regulations. The Coffee General Regulation, Crops Act, Coffee General Regulation 2019, and Capital Market Coffee Exchange Regulation 2020. And basically those two pieces of legislation is what actually has created a conducive environment to be able to, for the Cape Kenyan Coffee Union, to be able to sell their coffee directly. These reforms, unlike the reforms you have done in the past, are the two key elements. The first one is these reforms are farmer-centric. The legal principle underlying these reforms is that coffee, the property rights of coffee belongs to the farmer. So, in a nutshell, the farmer should be allowed to do whatever they want to do with their coffee. The other important principle, actually constitutional principle, is that agriculture has been involved. So, meaning that the county government should also have a major role in trying to implement this regulation. Very good. I want first of all you to hold your thoughts on that issue there, because first of all we want to go to the Villa Rosa Kempinski, where Deputy President William Ruto is meeting members of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. They basically want to find out what kind of an economic administration his government is likely to be once he, if he is elected come August this year. Let's first of all listen in to the Deputy President.
Would possibly, even if it is on the lower side, we would be thinking of 50, 60, maybe 100,000 houses by this year. We would be looking at an agricultural sector that has better productivity than we have today. I promise you that we would have delivered fully on our universal health coverage. So, we developed the Big Four together. Unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to assist in delivery of that program. And so, I believe I have the skills and the passion and the ability to make the right commitments and work with, build teams that can change this country. I have a track record of doing it. I believe, given an opportunity, I can do it even better at another level. Let me also say that maybe there is the whole issue about a peaceful election. I want to commit here that myself, my brother Musalia, and our team, we are very clear that the people of Kenya must be given the opportunity to make this decision after listening to all of us in a free, fair, and peaceful environment. And we are committed to respect the outcome of the election and the decision of the people of Kenya unequivocally and without conditions. I wish our competitors can do the same. They have never done it in the past. They are yet to do it. I have listened to them carefully. They keep saying, oh, we will accept the results if. When you say if, I mean, if in whose judgment? I mean, you should also respect that independent institutions will make their decision, and those independent institutions, if you have a quarrel with it, then there are other institutions that would adjudicate. But you don't say, I will accept the outcome, but if it is not, I will organize demonstration, I will go and swear myself in, I will go and do this. No, that's not how to do it, my friends. So we just have to be very clear on that. I am giving you my commitment here unequivocally, publicly, that I will accept the outcome of the election, whichever way it goes, because elections are not a matter of life and death. We need to make elections about choosing the people who can help us deliver on the transformation of our country and on the progress of our nation without making it a life and death issue. So I wish you people and others can extract the same from our competitors. They have never done it before. I hope they do this time round. So I think that's what I wanted to say. Sorry, I have to go, and I really appreciate your time. And I will also take this opportunity to ask for your vote. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
President William Ruto there outlining his economic manifesto to the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, and of course confirming that he is going to accept the verdict of Kenyans on the 9th of August this year, and he's committed to peaceful transfer of power. And let's wait and see, because we're getting into that heated political season, and of course urging Kenyans to maintain peace and to campaign peacefully, because at the end of the day, elections are not everything. We still have a country that we need to live in. Let's come back to the studio, where our conversation revolves around the coffee reforms in the country, and we're in the hands of the Coffee Subsector Reform Implementation Standing Committee Chair, Professor Joseph Kieya, who is domiciled at the Executive Office of the President. Kieya, before we listen to the Deputy President, you are talking about what you would consider to be your major achievement so far. You've talked about the implementation of 2 regulations. Good. And before we even go into those regulations, I want to hear from you. When you followed coffee from the seed to the coffee cup, what did you discover there? What was the challenge?
We found coffee is a little bit more complicated because you have the production side, there's the processing part, and also there are the milling part. Obviously, at the lower part where coffee farmers are located, we found high cost of production. The inputs were very high, the fertilizers, chemicals, and what have you.
Farm inputs.
Farm input, and again, putting more in an economic term, the input market was very inefficient for whatever reasons. A case in point is that, the government every year used to give fertilizer subsidy, but the coffee farmer never really enjoyed that
the subsidies.
Subsidy too. Then from there we went to the processing. The processing is where the cooperative societies are mainly assist the farmers, because you see, especially the small scale farmers, when they harvest their coffee, they give to the cooperative, the coffee is processed, and then from there the coffee is milled. At the processing part, we found governance issue within the cooperative societies, which were very, very, very serious. Then from there, we also now went...
And governance issues will be like mismanagement, corruption, conflict of interest.
And also the fact that the farmer didn't have a way of holding the officials to account. Then from there, we went to the milling. The milling we found in cases where there is a lot of exaggeration of milling losses, And mind you, Brian, that when the farmer take their coffee to the cooperative societies, that was it. They have no idea the quality of coffee. They have no idea even how that coffee will be priced. So they're in the dark. So when you go now to the meeting, part, again, there was a lot of executive milling process. The grading was not actually, because ideally, when your coffee is milled, you're supposed to be there. You see the coffee milled, it is categorized different grades, and then it's classified. Then from there, the coffee is usually given to the marketer, who takes the coffee now to the auction. Mind you, again, what we found, really shocking. There is a symbiotic relationship between the miller, the marketer, and the buyer. So meaning, when you go to the auction, there was, we can conjecture there was a lot of instant trading. So meaning that the prices that the auction is, coming up with, it's not efficient. Because ideally, from an economic time, when you have so many buyers and so many, sellers, you're able to get an equilibrium price. So, but in a nutshell, the two main source of problem that we thought that needed to be fixed very quickly, it is on that trading part, and as well as the governance issue in the cooperatives. So in a nutshell, we've again a lot of inefficiency in the governance, corporate societies, and also inefficient trading, which there were no transparency, and so a lot of instant trading that was taking place. So and then also the other problem, which I think is also very important to highlight, is that once the coffee is paid, it took 6 to 8 months before the farmer is paid.
How did you manage to deal with the issue of inputs, farm inputs, bearing in mind that even as we speak now, the cost of fertilizer has almost doubled from the year 2016, when a 50 kg bag of fertilizer was going for 2,800. Now the same is going for almost 7,000 shillings.
Yeah. Well, we provided that in our recommendation that we had recommended to the government that they need to create maybe like a 3-year subsidy program where they will assist the farmer with inputs, so that at least the farmer can be able to break even. Because I think also subsidy, you don't wanna make a subsidy a long term, because sometimes it also distorts the market. But we were saying, because of those high cost of fertilizer, labor costs also increasing, we had recommended, as part of recommendation, that the government land a 3-year subsidy focusing on the production.
Was that embraced?
That one is still in the process. There's some element of it that is, there's a project that is being funded by the World Bank, which actually try to address those issues. But I think our recommendation, we need a broader, a more intensive subsidy program, for I think, and again, our threshold was at least allow the farmer to break even, and then once they do that, we thought maybe the market could be to stabilize.
So, is it then proper to say that the issue of farm input has not been dealt with accordingly?
Well, I think I won't say that, but I think there is an effort for the government to do that. I can tell you there is a project already that is being funded in the World Bank that is addressing that aspect of inputs market.
How is it being addressed?
Well, I think what I think they have done, they have I think they put about I think it was about 1.4 billion shillings, and what they have done, they have picked pilot counties to start providing rehabilitation of the factories. Some of these factories are very archaic. We don't have any modern technology. Some of them doesn't have. They're not connected with the grid. But again, like I'm saying, it's on a smaller scale. but we had suggested that the government should be able to look into that, and I think, my hope, I think that would be probably the coming government should be able to address that. Yeah.
From your proposal, I mean, if your proposals on farm subsidies and farm inputs is not addressed, to what extent is this likely to have on the final cost to the farmer?
Well, I think the good thing, Brian, is that also, remember these prices is about the supply forces and the demand forces. What we're having now, we are very lucky. This reform have coincided with a frost that destroyed about 30% of the Brazilian coffee, as well as the Colombian. And those are our competitors. And
of course, Brazil is a bigger producer.
Precisely that. So what is also happening is that because the prices we are getting, they're able to cover the production cost. So in a nutshell, we might not, in the long run, maybe the guy might not be a need to do any subsidy, because the prices goes up, they're able to really cover the input. Because I can give you a case in point. To produce 1 kilo of chill of coffee costs about 35 shillings, right? What Kimani got was about 100, and the highest was 122. So there's almost 80%. I mean, 87 shillings that the farmer is drawing.
Profit margins.
Yeah, profit margin. So again, the way the market works, we might not even need the government, might not need to interject the subsidy program. What we need to do though is to really try to sort out these inefficiencies. And basically that's what we have done. Sort out this inefficiency, and that could be able again allow the farmer, even production costs notwithstanding, they'll be able to make money.
And that is domiciled on hope.
Not necessarily,
but hope is a bad strategy in business.
I mean, we have statistics. I'll just give you some statistics right now. Kimani, they sold. Their highest was 100 shillings. Each farmer would be paid 122 shillings per kilo of cherry. They would have spent about 35. Let's even take for hypothetical case. Suppose even the cost of production goes up to 60. They'll still be making, a profit.
You still have 100% profit
Precisely. In fact, if I can put it more succinctly, Brian, what we did is that we focus on the supply side. In fact, our reforms are more of a supply side, okay? Trying to see where can we reduce the production cost, okay? So that the farmer, without necessarily worrying about the price, because the prices are set by the global forces. So what you're saying is that, again, if we sort out this inefficiency, okay, the trading, the governance issue, maybe you might not even, the government doesn't need to do any
you don't even need the subsidy program.
Precisely, yeah.
So how did you manage to, or have you managed to do a decoupling of, this conflict of interest whereby you have the millers being the buyers and being the marketers?
Yeah. Let me tell you the beauty about, the coffee reform. For the first time, you have a task force that was established by the president, nested within the executive office of the president. But then the same team, okay, was instructed or appointed to implement the same recommendations. This has never happened. Because in most cases, you have someone doing the task force report, that report is given someone to implement.
In short, you are told, you made your bed, now lie on it.
Lie on it. And what that has done, and I tell you this, the reason why I become very successful, is that we're able now to really, I'm the person actually who thought through these issues, and I know the philosophical basis of why we are doing this. And so that had made it very easy. And I'm sure even achieving those regulation framework, Brian, this kind is very difficult. I required a thorough conversation with the county government, a very intensive consultation with the member of parliament, And I can tell you, if we succeed, coffee will be a case study for other products to follow.
Let me ask you this. I mean, now you're talking about from 2016 to 2022.
Correct.
That's almost 6 years down the line.
Yeah.
You've mentioned, a number of successes within the value chain. But let's talk about the drawbacks.
Sure.
What would you say has been one of your biggest drawbacks yet?
Okay, the drawback obviously is, and Brian, it took us almost 30 years to get where we are. The coffee problems, I think you try to highlight them. Everybody knows. We used to do 130,000 metric tons in late 1980s. Now we are doing about 40 or less than that, 40,000. Okay. So it's been a very protracted, mess. So again, you would also expect a little bit, reforming and getting a policy done. It might take a little bit more time. So one of the shortcomings that I think we have seen is also that the fact the farmers are not. We have not done thorough public participation for the farmer to understand some of the benefits that are really coming up. The other thing is that I think, like you mentioned, we had about 8 pillars of recommendations. The first one was the legal reform. The second one was subsidy that I talked about. Then the third one was cherry fund to support the farmer in order to mitigate their cash flow problems. The other one was and
3 billion shillings was allocated for that.
And then we had also recommended the structuring of the Nairobi Coffee Exchange to become an exchange so that efficient trading can take place.
Let's first of all talk about the 3, and I'm very keen on that. The 3. I mean the number 2 and 3. Okay. The cherry fund, and I know 3 billion shillings was allocated, to farmers. Yes. But the last time we had a conversation with you, you were still having challenges, with disbursing these funds to farmers.
Correct. Yeah.
Have you managed to have a breakthrough in regard to that?
I would say not yet, because I think we about 2.7 billion still in the bank.
So about 300 million shillings has been given out.
Yes, so meaning that I think there are some challenges that I think...
That's only 10%.
It's only 10%, and I agree. I mean, that's some of the challenges that I think we need to rethink, because the premise on how this cherry fund was supposed to be disbursed, there are 2 key elements. The first one is efficient disbursement. It was supposed to be given to the farmer, okay, who has coffee, okay, and it didn't matter where they would take their coffee. The second aspect was recovered. That money was supposed to be recovered the same year. Okay, so
you borrow this year.
Yes,
and the recovery is also expected to repay
because
this
it was a revolving fund. You have to give them this money because the whole idea was to caution the farmer, okay, before their coffee is bought. Then once coffee is bought by year, that money is again returned. So those some of the teething probably have not been sorted out. But I agree, it's one of the again probably shortcoming that we are not able to dispense that money as quickly as we can. But again, this being overtaken by event. You can see again the farmers who have been able to sell their coffee and sell them directly, like Cape Carrion, they will get their money quickly and they will go back to the farm. They might not need it to borrow because their money is already, because what was happening, and the reason why we had recommended cherry fund, it is this delay of the payments, which was ranges between 6 to 8 months. But with now, if you can sell directly, you don't have to borrow money, to meet your, short-term.
But you still admit or agree to the fact that, not all farmers are like the Kikelian. You still have a significant portion of Kenyan coffee farmers who still would thrive and still need the cherry fund. So what is your proposal going forward to ensure that because, the fact that you have distributed only 10% of the 3 billion shillings, that is a poor showing, definitely. Right. So how do you plan to scale up these numbers?
Well, I think there's some effort that have been put in place. One of the things that I think also explain why Capricorn have been very successful is that we encourage, union to integrate vertically, meaning that if you can process and mill your own coffee, then you can be able to now to sell your coffee directly, and that even bottling become much easy. Because you would also agree with me, dispersing cherry fund directly without going the union can be a challenge. But I think your point was taken, and my committee is trying to really figure out within the collaboration in the ministry on how these funds can be can be expedited in such a way that the farmer can be able to really enjoy.
So when you talk to the unions, what challenges are going through in trying to put their house in order for them to tap into this 3 billion shillings tariff fund?
I can tell you they have made a lot of progress. Right now, we are about almost 7 to 8 unions who have integrated vertically, meaning that they can process the media on coffee, and quite frankly, they also establish brokerage companies that can sell their coffee through the auction. So that again is on process. We have about maybe 12 union nationally, and the one I'll tell you about, because you have Meru, Muranga, Machakos, Embu, Kipkerion, Mount Elgon, Bugoma, and Gusii. Okay, and again, most of them have integrated vertically. Yes.
Let's now then focus on the other issue, the issue of the Nairobi Coffee Exchange.
Correct.
I know you faced a significant pushback when you tried to reform the exchange and bring in transparent management.
Sure.
Have you managed to deal with that element of pushback?
Well, I think we have, to some extent, we're able to upgrade. The Nairobi Coffee Case now have modern technology to be able to trade online. But as we speak, the Nairobi Coffee Exchange didn't have any legal entity when it was created, and we had recommended in our task force that they need to become an exchange that will now be regulated by the Capital Market Authority. Obviously, again, there's we have the law in place, and the Nairobi Coffee Exchange is trying to really work the modality on how they will be able now to convert, because ideally, according to the law, they are supposed to be a private entity, not a government entity. The only threshold I think the government is allowed to around 10% of the share ownership. The rest is supposed to be private. So again, Brian, that is again in place. Obviously, some of these reforms take a little bit of time before they take the traction, but they're in the course of actually, because again they also don't have a choice. They have to abide with the law, because the law provides that Nairobi Exchange is supposed to be an exchange which will be regulated by the CMA, and they have been given
CMA.
Yeah, they have been given. Yeah, they have been given preliminary,
operating license.
Awaiting again,
before they can put their house in order.
Yeah, before they put their house in order.
I know. You can correct me on this, but I know about 3 companies. Have been 3 brokerages have been given licenses by the CMA.
Correct.
To start, trading at the NCE.
Yes.
Is this number enough, or we still need more?
Well, I think they have actually. I think about 6 now.
Oh, 6.
Yes, they have. I know that for sure in Seneco that the CMA has licensed about. I think about 6 in total now. Yes.
How many more do you think we need?
Well, I think the whole argument, that we made when we are conceptualizing this, is that the coffee belongs to the farmer, so the farmer should be allowed to. In our reforms, we removed the marketing license. Okay, and we argued that what you need is a brokerage firm, because the role of a broker is to bring a buyer, right? They pay their commission and they walk away. The original regime was the marketer is given the coffee and he's also given the money. So what we recommend is of all 12 union to have a brokerage. And again, the role of the brokerage is to be able to sell in the auction. There are 2 ways that coffee is sold. It's through the auction and also through the direct sales. So we had again, but I think we have to be under the privilege and discretion the CMA, because you also don't have too many brokerage firm, because they make it marketing a little bit of increase the transaction cost of doing it. But we are thinking maybe about maybe 10 or 12 will be good. And also, by the way, there are other private companies who also applied for brokerage license. Yes.
I'm happy that you mentioned about 8 unions, 8 coffee unions. And among the 8 unions, I didn't hear any union that is from the central region of Kenya.
No, they're there.
How many are they?
There's Machakos. There's
Machakos would be classified as part of Mount Kenya. Or?
Yeah, there's Meru. Okay, actually Meru has always been trading. There is Muranga. There is Embu in the process of working on that. I know Kiambu has also started putting their house together.
Actually, that's where I was coming from. I mean, we know for sure that, and I'm born and brought up in Kiambu County, and I was brought up on coffee. Sorry, and there has been this big competition between coffee, real estate, and dairy farming.
Correct.
And I can tell this as a fact because that is where I come from, and I always got there. I haven't seen such a strong, deliberate effort, to try and revive coffee farming in Kiambu County. And I'll tell you for sure that I was born and brought up in coffee estates, spanning thousands of acres. You're talking about the acres of this country.
Correct.
But today, these places are now being subdivided to become real estate. Do we have a deliberate effort, to persuade farmers, to go back into coffee farming? Because ultimately, the shilling is the king.
Precisely. But I think also, Brian, using economic analysis, growing coffee is a private enterprise. It's not a government project. And that is, determined by how much the farmer is getting. If he doesn't get good pay from coffee and he can get someone to come and buy the land and do a real estate, I mean, that's a personal decision they have to make.
Then are you fighting a losing battle? Because you do not see a situation whereby, coffee farming is likely to be more lucrative, than the real estate industry.
Well, it's picking up. And I think, by the way, even Kiambu with all these problems, we are still 70% of coffee comes from Kiambu. Notwithstanding all,
despite all the challenges.
The challenge that you're talking about.
But for how long can that situation?
Well, again, part of all is the pressure we're getting from the expansion of Nairobi. And you're seeing the real estate has really skyrocketed. So what we just need to do, and the greater incentive, is to make sure the farmer is paid well. And the other thing, Brian, which I think is now explained why the government, county government, national government, has an interest on it, is that our coffee is a gold. We still, even with all this problem, we're still fetching 10% premium above global prices. And this is coming as a result of where we are. This is God-given. The geographical location is what gave us who we are. It can never be replicated anywhere in the world. In fact, if I can put it more succinctly, we produce Mercedes, but we market it as a tuk-tuk. So there's an effort, there's an economic effort one can make. We can make a lot of money as a country, zoning part of Kiambu as a coffee region. And that will sort the problem that you are mentioning about the real estate.
So let's go back to the 1990s and early, and 70s and 80s, and coffee was a protected crop in this country. You needed the license from the government to uproot, your coffee. But today, if you drive on the scenic roads of Kiambu County, on your way to Gatondo, on your way to Kiganjo, and I still have, those beautiful memories, of going through those lush green coffee estates with the huge sprinklers, watering the coffee. Today you go there and the only thing you see are mysonates, coming up, which for me, it's such an ugly picture that I have, I must admit.
Yeah.
Because I'm also worried about the future generation. They will not be able to enjoy those lush greens and those scenic views that we used to enjoy, going about our business there. So are we looking at a situation whereby we are likely to go back to the era of protecting the coffee crop?
Well, I think, rightly stated, and I hear what you're saying, O'Brien, but you see now one of the fundamental things about our country and the uniqueness of our countries, land is privately owned. It's a private entity.
Mm-hmm.
And if a piece of land, I have all the right to decide what I want to do with it. It's not the government's responsibility. But the broader view of saying these are special lands, these are special agricultural land we need to safeguard. Okay?
Exactly.
There has to be a broader conversation, either national and at the county level. Then we can say, there's a solution, and which is providing the law. We can zone it. All this region, the only thing you can do is coffee. Mm-hmm. And that what it does is also increase the premium of the land,
mm-hmm.
And the return of the coffee. But what some of the phenomena that we have been experiencing in this country is that the regulations, the private interests have been moving faster than
the
national interest. Even you can see the construction, like a town like Ruaka, where the planning is not there, and put all kinds of absurdity. And what's going to happen is we'll be very expensive coming back, trying out to really align. But you see, that's the reality we are having. But your point is well taken, and a conversation needs to start that we need this geographical location is a God-given.
Exactly.
And we can make a rational use as a country. Let's zone this land for this agricultural land, and then construction of housing can be done in areas which are not as productive as Kiambu.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's a conversation I think probably we need to start. There's it's also tied to the land reforms that I think that have been going on. But your point is well taken,
mm-hmm.
and it's also, as a national government, there is an interest to protect that land because of we produce coffee here because of.
You cannot take the geographical location of coffee growing zone and you plant it
precisely. Although there are new regions coming, particularly in the Rift Valley, but you see the highland around Mount Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the top coffee.
What used to be called the White Highland.
The White Highland, and again, for me, that's a discussion we need to really have, for the same reason you have really expressed. But at the same time, you cannot tell a farmer to stop pursuing other private interest, if the coffee is not bearing return. And again, like I mentioned to you, we have tried to sort out the inefficiency along the value chain,
mm-hmm.
and it seems to be working. Because if most of the farmer in Gatundu and other places, they have been paid over 100 shillings, which is a remarkable
achievement.
So in a way, it should that should start steering the demand of the supply of coffee. But I think again the other thing that is already meeting in Central is also our land are becoming very small. So what we need to focus on necessarily increasing the acreage, but I think the yield, productivity per tree. We are doing on average about 2 kilos per tree.
We used to do 20.
It can even go to 30, even 30 for that matter. But again, that brand, the best incentive is to make sure the prices are good and the farmers are.
You see, the fact of the matter is, we should never get to a point whereby O'Brien's personal interest is greater than the national interest of this country. Because at the end of the day, I can never be bigger than this country that we call Kenya. Yeah. And my interest should never be allowed, to be bigger than the national interest of this country. Because at the end of the day, we, the present and the current generation, we have all the authority and all the moral obligation to safeguard this country for the future generations. So when you talk about, zoning some areas, this is now the government coming in and saying, now look here, this area is reserved for coffee.
Sure.
Because we also want the generation that will come 100 years after us, when we are long gone, to also enjoy the lush grains, of coffee plantations and tea plantations and so much. So where do we start that conversation now?
Well, again, it is a conversation, and you are literally absolutely right. One of the strengths of Kenya is that this robust, property rights ownership. If you look at the whole country, about 20% is our land is owned privately, 13 is about government land, about 67 is what you used to call the communal land. And what has made Kenya so unique, it is that recognition of private ownership. But I agree with you, Brian, is that we have to force the individuals to internalize the costs they are creating to the soil, meaning that somebody gets there, he had a piece of land in Kiambu, he sold at a very high price, he get his money put in his pocket, but he's creating an externality, meaning that the land that he had maybe grown for food or for whatever is taken away.
Yeah.
So what you need to do is to tell them, we will still allow you to keep your land, but we will restrict what, and that is provided in the Constitution.
But for the government to do things, then the issue of pricing, the issue of productivity must be addressed. Because yes, this is my land, but I'm not going to starve and kill myself, and my family, simply because I want to keep this coffee for future generations.
Yes.
And that's the reason why you're in office with your team. So going forward, which other issue do you think is going to be addressed, is likely to be addressed, that is going to be a game changer in the coffee industry?
The other thing, and you alluded to in your introduction, comment, it is, and you're absolutely right, the average of coffee farmer in this country is about 6 years of age. So for future sustainability, the youth has to get in part of the value chain. They got to get involved.
Do they want to?
Well, again, I think we have a responsibility as a country to give them incentive. You don't have necessarily to be a coffee farmer. You can be a barista, you can, a case in point I would like to highlight here is that we only consume 5% of our coffee.
And 95 is exported.
95 is exported. And the reason why you go to some of these major hotels, they don't have the Kenyan coffee at all. We grow coffee and you walk, some of the big hotels, the type of coffee you're getting, it's very, very bad. But we also need to start consuming our own coffee. You talk about the Ukrainian and Russian, conflict. Obviously, the shillings will be affected. And I can tell you, if there's an event happening internationally, because our coffee is, all of it is exported, we tend to be very vulnerable to these capricious exogenous forces, globally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So we need to start consuming. You see, if you compare us with Ethiopia consume almost half of their own coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're shielded from this, price volatility. So now I appeal the young people, right? Those with a lot of entrepreneurial skills, to really start thinking, how do you start domestic consumption? We need to start consuming our own coffee. And there's a lot of good health attribute of coffee that most of us don't know. Studies have been done in the US that draw a direct correlation between consumption of coffee and longevity.
But let me ask you this,
and you've been to the US and you know it.
Well, definitely, and I know we have talked really about deepening the consumption of coffee in this country. And truth be told, 70% of Kenyan coffee is grown by small-scale farmers.
Yes, true.
Who are about 700,000 in numbers.
Yes.
But the same farmers cannot afford a cup of tea at, one of these upmarket restaurants in Nairobi.
Yeah.
And I'm also sure that you have been to the US and, gone to Starbucks, whereby a cup of cappuccino will cost you about $2.99. That's almost 350 shillings.
Correct.
So how do we make coffee, affordable even to small-scale farmers?
Well, I think what I'm saying is again appealing to the youthful entrepreneurship ingenuity. Okay. By the way, not all our coffee are priced at the same level. And we can make a very cautious decision.
You know, they are graded.
We sell the premium, okay? The lower grades can be consumed here. And you can start, no, because you want to try to make coffee as a substitute of tea. And it can be done. So it's doable. And I've seen, in fact, I visited a coffee shop the other day owned by a very young Kenyan, it was really fascinating. And what he told me, surprisingly, that he's still depending on foreigners for roasting. And he's here in Kenya. And I was asking, why can't you roast your own coffee? And you are provided under the law, we have allowed local roasters to buy coffee and roast it here.
You see, the fact that, when you walk to many restaurants these days, and especially here in Nairobi, in Mombasa and Kisumu, you find restaurants that are having baristas, okay, whose expertise is how to blend coffee and make the best coffee that you can enjoy. But that is at a very premium scale.
Yes.
But still at the farming level, we still need young people because at the age of 60, there's nothing much that you can do. Your productivity is still 60% below your capacity. So how do we also encourage young people to put on the gumboots and go back to the farmland?
Again, it's very simple, Brian. Pay them nicely.
They want to get dirty.
No. I don't buy that argument. It's because, it's the power of you show me the money. You tell me, a farmer like the Cape Kenyan farmer, and he's making the 7. Do you need to be convinced to go back to the farm compared to any other job you work? It's about the money, my friend.
But can you also start a deliberate campaign, of branding, our coffee and the coffee value chain? Because the picture that we have of, coffee farmer in Kenya is an old person in gumboots, and a dusty coat or torn coat, picking coffee. Can we? How do we give that image, a youthful image, a progressive image, a futuristic image of a young person?
Yeah, I totally, Brian, I think that to me would capture some of the activities and effort we need to do within this pillar of the youth participation. We have, as a government, to provide those incentives, but ultimately, it's their responsibility. The only thing the government can do is to create a conducive environment, make sure they sort out the production issues, they sort out the inefficiencies along the coffee value chain, and then the coffee start paying. I can tell you for now, the demand for seedlings has quadrupled.
Coffee.
Everybody wanna go to the coffee. And I know a case in point in places like Moranga and where most of friends are calling me that I'm not trying to look for coffee, but I can't even get the seedling. So that man has strategy going on. What we need to worry about, Brian, is that one of the uniqueness about coffee, and it's all commodities, and this problem faces developing countries, is that the coffee is grown here, but is consumed in somewhere else. Okay? So when the prices change, coffee demand as well as supply is price inelastic. Because when the prices goes down, you're not going to uproot your coffee. You're still going to go and harvest it. So what the government needs to worry is how do you really mitigate these variation when the prices goes up or go down, given the fact that it is usually very difficult for a farmer to adjust. But in my opinion, and I gave to Foskari, is that this has to be, coffee is a private good. Okay, the farmer should be given as much discretion they want. The conversation we're talking about, that's a more conversation about land reforms, which again I know that we are discussion this with the governor of Kiambu. Again, trying to think about this zoning issue. It's provided in the law. In the constitution, you enjoy your property rights, but the government has a role to regulate, to ensure that the externalities that you're creating are internalized within the broader picture. Yes.
I know part of your reform was, turning around about 500 parking stations
Yes.
And also reforming the management of cooperative societies.
Correct, yes.
At the farmer level. But this is definitely not going to be a walk in the park, because these are private entities.
Correct.
And here you have the government. There's so much that the government can do.
Sure.
But ultimately, this goes back to the management, which is decided by farmers anyway. So have you made any inroad on that?
Well, what we have done, and again, and explains again why KBC was very successful. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure in this day and age of digital age, where the information is becoming readily available. Is that it's become very difficult for or easy to hold some of these cooperative societies to account. Like for instance, now, if the coffee is sold, like that KBC, it is public knowledge, so everybody knows. So the shenanigans that used to play is being minimized to some extent. The other thing, the farmer are also looking, comparing. And I know like this KBC sale has actually impacted most of the union, because they're asking, how can KBC do better than us? How can they pay 122 and you guys are paying 50 shillings? So that has started putting a little bit of pressure. There's some other reform within the cooperative, which again is also changing the number of term that chairman or the official can be re-elected. But I agree with you, it takes a little bit of a while. But the best solution, O'Brien, is to really sort out the inefficient that the government can be able to do, and let the other thing sort themselves out.
I have seen Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya. He has been very aggressive. Going to the ground and urging farmers. Look here, you need to elect people of integrity, people with some level of education qualification, because ultimately these are the people who are going to make decisions on your behalf. And if you make bad decisions, then you are ultimately going to get bad results. But apart from that, do you think there is anything more that can be done?
Well, obviously, I think the law is in my opinion, probably the best way. Because what is also happening, Brian, that you are now saying the other side of the coin, it's who sustain these bad leaders. I told you, the symbiotic relationship between the millers and the marketers is what actually for me has been the source of the problem. You have the millers who want to make sure certain officials stay there because they will be guaranteed to get their coffee. And this is also being fueled because our coffee is very small. And you have the milling capacity of almost 90% of milling capacity is idle. We have a capacity of about 450,000 metric tons. We're only doing 10%. So there's a lot of pressure for coffee anywhere. But I agree with you. One of the drawback is, again, and particularly for the small scale farmer, they are unable to hold these guys to account. Even the voting process is done. If you happen to go to some of this general meeting for this corporate, it's like war, because there are people who have strong vested in it. In fact, I someone who told me that you almost have to give 5 even to 10 million for campaigning
to be a director.
Oh yeah, because you know what is that. But you see now, the farmer have started now realize that, and again, this is as a result of coffee starting, fetching good prices. Because if the coffee is paying well, you are more likely to be affected, whoever be, and you're more likely to pay attention. But when the prices are very bad, you just like, what? The sad thing that that I think is that I would like to highlight here, which was attributed to the previous law. O'Brien, I told you our coffee is gold. But most of even our coffee farmers don't have an idea. They have never tasted their coffee.
And especially the good grades.
The good
top grades.
You've never tasted it. So you are taking here a gold and you're going to give it to somebody else. And again, with the new legal framework, we have actually told all these cooperatives even have to digitize.
Their processes.
Their processes, yeah. It's in the law. It's a legal framework. They are given a year to make sure they have really digitized, so that the farmer can be able to track their coffee. Once you take it to the cooperative, it's weighed. You're given a receipt. They can tell you when it's taken to milling, what is the milling losses, what is the classifications, and once the coffee is sold, you should be able to really get it that information.
Prof, before I let you go, I mean, you've mentioned Kipkelian Society for about 7 times now.
Correct, yeah.
What is so unique about it?
Oh, it's historical. It's never happened. And I'm saying this, Brian, because I was part of this process. I midwife this process. And the beauty for me was to hear on the other side a Korean proposing a price. The officials of Cape Carrion on the other side. It was a Zoom. They would call the farmers, what do you think about this? Is this a good price? Yes, should we commit? That has never happened. They used to take their coffee, give it to somebody else. You have no idea when this money will be paid, and you don't even know how much.
That one is decided by...
It's decided, and you see now everybody knows. They know how much everybody has been paid. The farmers are aware about it.
Now the process is participatory.
Precisely.
Farmers, they have a say in how much we want to sell our coffee and to who.
Precisely. And the reason being, again, Brian, coffee is not a public good. It's a private good. And the God who gave us right to life also gave us some liberty. And one of those liberty is to own a piece of property. And it's protected in the Constitution. There's a presumption that usually goes around that these farmers don't understand what they are going. Just the picture that you painted. They have no clue idea. They cannot even market. But my question is, what is so difficult marketing? Taking your food to the... You cannot spend so much money growing it, right? And then somebody assume we cannot be able to sell it.
But these farmers, they're always marketing things. I mean, they go to... They cut their bananas, they take them to the markets, they negotiate for prices, yes. They do the same for tomatoes, they do the same for vegetables.
Why can't you do it on coffee?
What is so hard about doing that for coffee?
And from a very simple economic, principle, there's no way Brian will sell something below your production cost. And even our grandmother knows that. When they call to the market, they know they will not sell below what they have needed. It will be rational. So again, the historical sense about this is the first time this guy negotiated. The same Korean investors coming back here, he want to buy. And by the way, Korea can buy all our coffee.
All of it.
Their consumption per year is about 175,000 metric tons.
Our production is 50,000 metric tons.
So they can come and buy And by the way, Korea is a very unique market that is emerging. That we need to take advantage. And my thesis and my thinking for going to South Korea was that let's get buyers into our markets. And that what it does, you create competition. If a farmer chooses to take their coffee in Europe, so be it. They choose to take to China, and you negotiate. But the biggest achievement of Brian that I think the president has really done for and I remember when he appointed me, he told me, Prof, as chairman, I want the farmer to be paid fairly and to be paid on time.
Before I let you go, because I mean, it took us about 30 to 35 years, to destroy the coffee subsector in this country. But is it going to take us that period of time before now we can start realizing the benefits or the low-hanging fruits of the coffee value chain?
No, I don't think so. I think what happened is that one of the underlying reason why that happened is that because the owner of this particular good had always been in darkness. But you see, like now, they are empowered. They know who to call. They know where to ask. And the best thing to me would happen is that, these guys become their own advocates. They know where the shoe pitches, and they can be able to demand, those things. So my expectation, Brian, is that even as a country, we have been discussing about industrialization, manufacturing, and there's no better place to start in agro-processing. If we sort coffee, okay, I can tell you the way we went about these coffee reforms can be a case study for tea, it can be a case study for sugar, and you need to take control again on those products.
Good. Prof, I think I have to let you go.
Thank you.
To go now and enjoy your cup of coffee.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much indeed for your input, and of course we wish you all the best and look forward for that time when the glory of coffee shall be reinforced.
Okay. Thank you for having me here.
Asante sana. Go and enjoy your coffee.
Thank you.
Look here, I mean, you see, it's such a shame that as a country we produce about 40 to 45,000 metric tons of coffee, but our production, our local consumption is about 5% of these. You cannot compare these with our neighbors called Ethiopia, where they consume almost 50% of their coffee. Unless and until that time we become more serious consumers of our own product, and I'm talking about coffee, then that's the time that we're going to say, yes, we've made it. Coffee is our gold. It has always been our black gold. It can always go back to its former glory if we all put our efforts together and help in this process. We have been having this conversation around the coffee culture in Kenya. I encourage you to take more coffee, even right now. Our next conversation will revolve around innovation and, of course, SMEs embracing the concept of innovation in their day-to-day businesses. Stay right here because that conversation is something you don't want to miss.
Have a new story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Mundos divididos por una sombra de traición.
Someone ran over Rogelio, and it seems like it's really serious.
We have to investigate Mr. Damian Ferrer.
I think there's something here that just doesn't ring right. Don't you agree?
But you didn't kill the man. And he's in intensive care right now. I saw you hugging Denise, Leonardo. And from what I can see, you took my advice in through one ear and let it out the other.
Take care of him, please.
Don't worry, Santi will do just fine.
Lying heart.
Fue sembrando el veneno y la ambición entre
Experience a new history and setting of new records in Stark Arena from the 18th to 20th of March 2022 at the World Athletics Indoor Championships.
Pretty tight out of the blocks, and Coleman now moving away. Christian Coleman challenged late there by Bromell.
More than 1,000 of the world's best athletes will compete for 96 medals across 24 finals during the 3 days of competition in Belgrade, Serbia. Kenya has a formidable team, 10 athletes, amongst them Africa's fastest man, Ferdinand Omanyala. It is going to be a blast, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Well, let's talk about innovation in SMEs, in the SMEs industry, and of course how this critical segment of the Kenyan economy, can tap innovation, to remain relevant, to remain up to date, and of course to prosper, because we know for sure there is absolutely no economy called Kenya without SMEs. Because figure it this way, 80% of Kenyan workforce, some people will tell you 90%, 80% of the Kenyan workforce, they derive their daily bread from the SME sector. And the Kenyan industry or the Kenyan economy, about 90% of Kenyan businesses would be classified as in the category of MSME. So that is an economy, that's a sector that you are playing with and you are talking about. And so all efforts are supposed to be geared towards ensuring that the healthy sustainability of this critical sector, and our policies should all be geared towards ensuring that this critical segment or sector of our economy is supported by all means. And that's what we want to discuss this morning. I'm joined by Elsie Birech. She is the Advertising Innovation Manager at Eskimi, which is a programmatic advertising platform. Big names, big titles. She's going to help us understand what exactly are we talking about here. Eskimi, programmatic advertising platform. Swanky titles. What are we talking about?
Okay, so Eskimi is an ad tech platform that's specializing in helping small customers and also large customers to be able to reach their target audiences when they're browsing across different sites and apps online. So you're browsing on a site like CNN, and you're able to serve like targeted ads to that particular person who's just reading like that news on CNN or
KBC or KBC.
Exactly, or KBC, or even an app like Truecaller. Yeah.
So that's what you do.
Yes.
How do you do that, without invading, customer privacy?
Okay, so first we are very GDPR compliant. Our company is headquartered in Europe, and we comply to all the terms and conditions under GDPR. So ideally is we're not able to target like you in person, but like we have anonymous profiles. So we've profiled users, and we have a reach of 1.5 billion in the entire world. And these are anonymous profiles. We don't use any information that can identify a user, like a phone number or email. But we just look at your browsing, behavioral patterns online, and then we say you like reading a lot about sports, we classify you as a user interested in sports. You like reading a lot about business, we classify you as a user interested in business. So that's basically how we do it. Of course, using cookies, we have so many data collection points. Cookies is one of them.
And this can well be explained by this fact, and I want to try and bring it down, to as low as it can get. Let me help you understand this. I mean, have you ever, for example, you want to buy, let's say what? You want the best burger in town, or pizza, or even arrowroot. So you browse, and then the next time when you try to browse the best burgers in town, you get like 50 sites, 50 companies, offering, burger sites. I mean, that is the role of companies like Eskimi. I mean, they track your online movement, they track your online usage, and then they come up with the products that are customized to suit your needs. Did I get it right?
Yes, you did. And
Didn't you
really
clap for me?
explained it well.
No, of course you don't have to. Let me help us then understand these. Why is it critical for SMEs to integrate IT skills, IT platforms in their day-to-day operations?
Okay, so when you look at how the world has changed, especially, with COVID, it has actually revolutionized like how businesses operate. Like we saw many businesses go online. Like we've seen like the growth in terms of internet penetration, and people are spending a lot of their time online. So for businesses, or rather for SMEs, this presents an opportunity for them to be able to reach their target audiences at the right time and at the right place with the right message. So that's what exactly like, a platform like Skimi, or rather like just programmatic advertising in general, comes quite in handy for SMEs, because people are spending a lot of their times online. You're stuck on traffic, you're online. Right now we have what we call like micro moments. When I want to book a hotel, the first place I turn to is Google, right? You just go online, like hotels in Nairobi. When you want to fix, you're in the house, like you want to fix something, and the first place you'll go to is either YouTube or Google, right? So when you look at our like how we sort like solutions to our problems, the first place we turn to is online, and this is where people spend most of their time. And platforms such as Google advertising, paid ads advertising, Skimi, Facebook, they come quite in handy for small businesses to be able to reach the right audience at the right time, at the right place, with the right message.
You see, and I was just I've seen data being thrown around that about 70% of Kenyan SMEs will not survive beyond their 5th anniversary. And this is because of multiplication of issues, multiple issues, from lack of integration when it comes to IT, lack of innovation, capital challenges and so much. Is it possible for today's SMEs to survive without integrating innovation and IT platforms in their day-to-day operations?
I would say like it's really, digital or innovation is really quite critical for small businesses, especially during these times. With the disruption of technology, you've seen like what the pandemic did. You're very right with those statistics about, businesses not being able to see their 5th anniversary. But the good thing is now we have like innovation platforms, we have like digital platforms that come quite in handy for these SMEs to be able to leverage on. And it's a key component for any SMEs to be able to survive. Remember, this is a world of competition. Like a small business is competing, with like a large business, some huge corporate, and we are all like targeting like the same audience. Like I'll give you a good example, like say a telco is competing with that mama mboga for the same audience. The telco wants them to buy airtime, the mama mboga wants them to buy their product as well, right? So what distinguishes you? So the beauty about innovation, it gives all of you a level play field. It doesn't matter whether you're big or small, it gives all of you a level play field. And we've seen that businesses who leverage on innovation, actually, they survive. So that's the thing. If you leverage on innovation, as long as you are able to evolve quite fast, they'll be able to survive. Yeah.
You see, and I, like the fact that, you have brought about, a pragmatic example here of Mama Mboga. And, you can't talk about Kenya without talking about Wanjiku and Mama Mboga and so much. But can Mama Mboga, integrate IT and innovation in their Mboga business? Is it possible? Yes.
How? First, they can do like deliveries, like online deliveries. Like remember, like their target audience are still, these busy people in Nairobi. They don't have time to go to the markets, and then like they can use that as they can bridge that gap of doing like online deliveries to their homes, and they can use platform even such as WhatsApp. Like nowadays, everyone like has there's a good rate of smartphone penetration, and we've seen businesses leveraging on even WhatsApp status to just sell, their products or services. And sometimes, like you're busy, and then you remember, like, oh, there was this Mama Mboga who posted, like they can do like this online delivery, right? So you just give them a call, and then they can bring them to their house. So that's the beauty about what I really like about innovation and digital is that, like, it doesn't matter how small you are. It doesn't matter even if you're a mama fua. I've seen people who have revolutionized these mama fuas. They've come up like with an app. When you're looking for someone to do your laundry over the weekends, you can just like reach them out using an app. So that's one of the examples of how.
So even these days we have Mama Fua.
Yes.
Because we are used to Mama Mboga.
There's an app called Mama Fua.
So maybe the next thing we're going to have is Mama Pika.
Exactly.
Well, you can have a group of women, offering services of coming to your house and cooking for you.
Exactly.
And I like the fact that you've talked about social media sites, that people, they know so much. You're talking about Facebook, you're talking about WhatsApp, Twitter, and so much. And I've been, have played around with data from Google, where they say that majority of Kenyans on social media sites are on Facebook. And then they're followed by is it Twitter or WhatsApp?
So interestingly, Facebook has like a reach of 8 million. Twitter has a reach, people think Twitter is like one of those leading platforms in terms of numbers, but it actually has like a reach of 3 million users. So we have Facebook at 8 million. Yeah. Then we have we have Twitter at 3 million. Yeah, WhatsApp really is huge, even than Facebook in terms of numbers. And then we now have these people who are browsing across different sites and apps. That's where Skimmy comes in. And in Kenya, Skimmy, we have a reach of 19 million users. 19 million users. I mean, let's put it into perspective. I mean, you have about 15 million smartphones, in the hands of Kenyans. And out of these 15 million smartphones, I mean, you have about 13 million with WhatsApp platform. Help a mama mboga who is listening to you, how they can make or how they can utilize that platform, to deepen their business and, of course, to ensure they make more profit. Great. So so for mama mboga, like they can use like mama fua. They can use like a platform like WhatsApp to be able to increase their sales. That is usually like the major goal for most of these businesses, to be able to increase their sales. Also to just create brand awareness for people to know about your product or service, what you're offering, and also to try to be able to like lead people or to drive footfall traffic to their stores, like to their physical stores, if they have like a physical store. I have seen people who don't even have like physical stores. They purely operate online. Their businesses are purely online, and they're thriving. They're really doing quite great. And one of them probably would be like Jumia, for example, or Kilimall, whereby, their shops are online. The only brick and mortar business they have is the collection center, or what do they call the experience center. So how comes we are yet to see, and especially the younger, the older generation, and I know the younger generation in Kenya, has somehow taken up online marketing, online sales. But how do we ensure that we also do not leave behind the mama mbogas, at the micro level? I think we need to do a lot of emancipation in terms of like training for this particular segment, because I think what is lacking here is knowledge gap. And we're already doing this, like as platforms like Skimmy, we're doing trainings for small businesses. I've seen also Facebook, they're doing trainings, and also even offering like support in terms of monetary, right? So we are providing like this support to be able to equip them with the necessary skills and knowledge to be able to effectively utilize like these digital platforms to grow their businesses. And you see, in a country like Kenya, whereby we talk about almost 70% of the population, being people below the age of 45. So that is quite a fertile ground, for people to integrate IT, to integrate online marketing, for their businesses. But you still have people who prefer, the door-to-door marketing mode, the open-air, sales styles. Is it that we are yet to understand what really is the potential of, social media platforms, IT platforms, in pushing our sales? Yeah, that's why I mentioned like there's knowledge gap here, and also maybe they have an idea they can do this, but they don't actually know how to be able to do it. So with trainings, with the necessary trainings, with the necessary equipment of knowledge, I'm sure like SMEs should be able to thrive if they have like a better understanding of how they can do, or rather how they can utilize these platforms to increase their sales. Because first thing is for them to be able to identify, like you see, what is their goal, what would they really want to achieve. So with the goal and with the right audiences also, they should be able to define like their target audience. For example, like a mama fua who operates just say in Westlands region, right, should be able to just target people living in Westlands only. Yeah, So for them to be able to understand how they can do that, this is going to really help them a great deal in terms of increasing their sales, increasing their brand awareness, and be able to drive footfall traffic if they have like physical stores, like I mentioned.
And you know, the fact that you're the co-founder of Young Kenyans in Tech, you know, is a fact that you know, we are talking to the right person, you know, who is at the forefront of championing you know, Kenyans, you know, to join the IT platforms. But let me hear from you. And I know you know, about 2 weeks ago we had a conversation here how to bring more young girls and women into the IT sector. What from your interaction with young girls and women, how best do you think this can be achieved?
First is through you know, creating awareness for the endless possibilities that is there in the tech space for these young women and girls. And we've actually seen quite a huge increase in terms of, you know, girls who even pursue courses in STEM, which when you look back like a few years ago, like the number was quite minimal, but right now we've seen like an increase in terms of like girls who are pursuing like STEM courses, girls who are creating like startups. Like there's so many, like in our organization, like in our community rather, the Young Kenyans in Tech, like we have quite some phenomenal women who are doing quite great. Like they've created like their own business initiatives, their own startups. They've even gotten funding. Like a good example is Kwara, and she's one of our members in the Young Kenyans in Tech, and she's really doing quite great. So yeah, so in terms of just creating this awareness, we should be able to like pull in more girls and women in the digital space. Yeah, and also supporting them from a funding perspective, because it's an interesting conversation the other day that why is it that the solution for young businesses all the time is trainings, right? Or rather, you know, just trainings like from platforms like us. But yeah, so we've seen like Facebook, for example, they've come up like the other day when we were celebrating Women's Day, like they've come up with not just trainings but also like young businesses, they can get like funding, they can get support from a funding perspective. Yeah.
And it's good that you have brought about the issue of funding, because you know, when you talk to SMEs, you know, one of their biggest challenges is, of course, you know, access to capital. Yeah. Are there funding opportunities that you know, SMEs can access through various IT platforms?
Yes, they are, and I also think like maybe some people don't have like the knowledge about it. Like they can actually get some funding, because I've seen like this is not. It's a platform called Market Force. They're like Kenyans, the founders are Kenyans, 2 Kenyans, and they've been able to raise like 3 rounds of funding, you know, from pre-seed to where they are like right now. They've been able to raise like three rounds of funding. So I think what also we need to like create, or rather teach these SMEs that there are avenues for funding, and we need to show them how to raise fundings, because we've seen like great platforms like that have grown quite big just because of funding. Like even Jumia is one of them actually, and I know small businesses, if they get the right access to funding, they can be able to grow. Yeah. And
you're also a very good example, because you know, for your undergrads, you did you wanted to be a teacher, right?
Exactly. I'm actually a teacher.
You're actually,
you know, once a teacher, always a teacher.
And then when you proceeded to do your master's, I mean, you decided to venture into the world of IT. But you definitely know for sure that you know, this sector is heavily skewed towards men, you know, whereby almost 70% of participants in the IT sector are men, or boys, if you like it. So what are you doing, because of the platform that now you have, you know, to ensure that you encourage more women and more girls, you know, to join the spectrum?
Yeah, so we have such communities such as women in tech, women in digital, and you know, just to ensure that we're able to teach women and give them a platform to be able to break the bias. Because like I like how you said it, like, you know, 70% of men. Yeah, so this is what you're trying to encourage women to break the bias, like in the digital space, that this is not just a space for men, like there are opportunities. And we even have like platforms that do exclusive funding just for women. Like I like what Zuri Foundation did, like just the other day they had like awards for women, and celebrating women who are doing like amazing stuff like in different fields. And this is one way in which like such foundations are supporting women to be able to break the bias.
Yeah. But you see, the problem is that you know, most of these initiatives are concentrated around Nairobi, around the big towns, you know, of Kisumu, of Mombasa. How do we take this message beyond, you know, the boundaries of big towns and cities in Kenya?
One is incorporating these like right from, you know, from schools, from primary level, secondary level, like doing that penetration like to the local areas to be able to empower women, empower girls who are like from a very young age, and using like we have like so many role models actually like in the tech space that women can look up to, and by using like these people to be able to reach out to girls from a very young age, from regardless of where they come from.
You realize that, I mean, you're in a sector whereby it will be considered to be a privilege, you know, where you are, because, you know, when you look at statistics from the International Telecommunication Union, they will tell you that 50% of women are offline. They are not on any IT platform. And you see, if you're talking about the current global population of about 7.35 billion people, so you're talking about more than 3.7 billion people are offline. This is such a critical market that cannot afford to be left behind. So from your experience, how then do we tap into the 50% of the global population that is still offline?
I'll still go back, you know, to trainings. Because actually that's usually like, you know, the easiest way in terms of like, you know, creating empowerment and helping people understand like what they are missing out, or rather the gaps that they are missing out. Like just yesterday, there's this lady, she's called Kwamboka. She normally sells like chipomwitu, and she, due to tough economic times,
sells what?
She sells chips. We call it chipomwitu, right? Yeah.
I know her. She's Evelyn Kwamboka.
Yeah, Evelyn Kwamboka, exactly.
Yes.
And just the other day, she was like, she had to close her business due to tough economic times. And I really like.
Was it true? Or I thought maybe it was just a stunt.
You know, I can't tell, but the truth is we are all feeling the pinch with the tough economic times, right? And one of the things I really liked about this lady, like what she's doing is, I think she's the first person from like this business, this industry, like to be able to acquire customers online. Like she's been quite good in terms of creating like awareness for a business. And I feel like if we can go down to the roots, to the villages, and be able to like train these women, they should be able to they should be able to have a better understanding of how they can be able to grow their businesses online.
Very good.
Yeah.
I mean, I want you to hold your thoughts because we should be coming back, but we want to go to the city of Mombasa, where the political registrar of political parties, you know, they're having engagement with voters, creating sensitization on how to make that critical decision come the 9th of August this year. We now want to link up with our reporter, with our coast correspondent, Juni Karisa. Juni, where are you? Juni Karisa, can you hear me? Oh, there you are.
morning, O'Brien. We're coming to you live from the Flamingo Hotel, where today aspirants from the Coast region are gathered here to hear a word from the Office of the Political Registrar. And today I'm joined by the Assistant Political Registrar just to give us a few pointers of what they'll be telling the aspirants this morning, who have been here from, say, about 9 a.m. just to get a glimpse of what is expected from them. Karibu sana, please start with your name and what exactly were you doing this morning?
Thank you very much. My name is Ali Abdullahi, and I'm Assistant Registrar of Political Parties. And today we are here to sensitize aspirants who are aspiring to for various positions in the coming general elections. And in this particular sensitization, what we are doing is we are sensitizing on the amendments to the Political Parties Act, where the electoral environment has been changed through the amendments to the Political Parties Act. That's the first thing that we are sensitizing them on, so that they understand and be able to participate in the political process. The second thing we are doing is that we are also sensitizing them on ethical leadership, whereby since they are aspiring to be leaders of this country, we sensitize them on values, integrity, and respect for human rights and respect for the dignity of others. So as they campaign, they must remain peaceful and respect the rights of others. That's what we are sensitizing them on. We are also sensitizing them on the eligibility requirements for the various positions that they are running for, as well as the political parties' code of conduct, so that if they are aspiring and they are doing their campaigns, all the parties must respect the political code of conduct. They must be free from violence. They must not involve in undue influence and corruption. They must give equal opportunity even to the special interest groups, including women, youth, people with disabilities, marginalized, and the minorities. So that is what we are sensitizing them on, so that when they go for the elections, they are well equipped and be able to, conduct their nomination processes peacefully, and also their campaigns in an orderly manner, and when they are well informed about the requirements of the law, as well as the requirements of the various regulations within the political party's regulatory framework.
Some of these aspirants are concerned by the different methodologies that some of these parties want to deploy so that they can select the best candidates to represent them. Have you had some of these lamentations, and what criteria are you filtering to ensure that these political parties are guided when they are conducting their nomination?
Political parties are institutions, and as the Office of the Registrar, we don't micromanage the activities of political parties. What we do is we regulate the nomination process. And regulation means that political parties must respect their constitutions, and they must also respect the Political Parties Act as well as the attendant regulations. In their constitutions, all political parties have deposited with the Commission nomination rules that have been certified by the Registrar of Political Parties. So in these nomination rules, the various methods have been spelled out. Parties have said they're going to use direct nominations, where members of that party vote to select their candidate. They have also included indirect methods, whether they're going to use other methods like delegate system, like interviews, and being able to issue certificates through other processes. So all of them are provided for in law. So members of the parties have to acquaint themselves with the nomination rules of their parties, so that anything that is done are done within the nomination rules. If they understand their nomination rules, all aspirants then will know that a particular party has provided for indirect methods and direct methods. So if they feel they are not comfortable with that method, then they are at liberty to join another party, and a party with which they agree with the nomination method to be used by that party.
Another thing that was a bone of contention was resigning from one party to another. What of that, and how long until these parties have their individual party registries?
The deadline for submission of membership list to the registrar for certification, so that parties can transmit it to IBC is 26th of March. So anybody who wants to contest must be a member of a party in which he wants to contest on by 26th of March. So up to that 26th of March, the window is open to resign from one party and join another. So that is the deadline, and all aspirants have to acquaint themselves with the election timelines and the political parties' timelines, as we have shared with through our website and even through the press and to many of the forums that we have conducted. We have, including this one, we have sensitized aspirants on the various timelines. So you have to be a member of the party you want to run on by 26th of March 2022.
Thank you so much. Mheshimiwa, this forum, how do you rate it, and how has it been received by the various aspirants here in the Coast region?
Let me take this opportunity to first of all thank the Office of the Register of Political Parties. This is the first time they have such a kind of a forum. It's very formative. It deals with the issues of the recent passed amendment bill on how political parties should conduct themselves during elections. And I think the aspirants have gained a lot, and I hope that this will give us good time to do our campaigns free, without a fear of tarnishing names, you know. So every political party, after the nomination, will conduct ourselves in a very good manner, so that we just appeal for votes. We don't have to abuse each other, because you know, when you abuse somebody, you are not telling the people the kind of solutions you have for their problems. So I think it's a very good forum, and I really encourage this to continue before we finally go for the general election.
Thank you. O'Brien, that was Kaloleni Member of Parliament, Paul Katana, who is attending this particular forum. This is a countrywide forum that is just making the aspirants aware of some of the regulations, code of conduct, and the amendments that there exist in the Political Parties Act, so that as the nominations draw near, these aspirants can conduct themselves in the rightful manner. Of course, we are here and we'll be giving you more updates as the day progresses. But for now, back to you, O'Brien, Kimani, and studio.
Well, beautiful. That's our coast correspondent, Juni Carissa, there, following in on the ongoing conversation by the registrar of political parties, hosting aspirants for different positions from the coast region. Of course, you're giving them heads up on various aspects of the law and how to adhere. But one thing I admire is the breeze, because as you can see, they were just next to the ocean, and Nairobi, under the sweltering heat, man oh man, that's what we need in this country, in this county of Nairobi. But hey, our moment to shine will come, and the rains will be here soon. So we continue our conversation here in studio. If you're just joining us, man oh man, you've missed a lot, because we're in the company of Elsie Birech. She is the Advertising Innovation Manager at Eskimi, which is a programmatic advertising platform. We did explain what is that. Yeah, I'm sorry if you missed it. But let's come back to Elsie. Elsie, tell me this. I mean, I know you develop, your adverts, for targeted, clientele. But how do you get to know that, or how do you measure your success?
Great. So one of the beauty also about digital is the fact that everything is measurable. Like, you're able to know how many people saw my ads, how many people clicked on my ads, how many people even converted from my ads. Like, for example, if it's Jumia, for instance, they can be able to tell how many sales they made from a certain platform. So everything in digital space is measurable. You're able to see everything in real time. Like, you run a campaign today, you're able to see how many people have you reached, how many people clicked and they came to your website, or even how many people clicked and called your businesses. Or you can still track footfall traffic, how many people saw my ads and they came to the physical store. So that is the beauty about digital advertising, like everything is measurable. You have a dashboard that is visible and in real time.
I know, advertising is a major component of spending in any organization, and I know advertising is quite expensive. Do you see a situation whereby these IT platforms or these targeted adverts, will overtake the conventional way of advertising of billboards, newspapers, and so much?
Yeah, so when you look at the programmatic advertising trends, like year on year, it's actually been growing. Like people are moving to automated ways of buying media, as opposed to just running like ads like from the conventional ways. And one of the key things why they're doing that is because everything is measurable. And you mentioned that advertising is expensive, but I would want to challenge that and say that advertising is quite efficient and not necessarily expensive. Yeah, because
well, efficient it is, but it will cost you top dollar, to reach a bigger market, right?
There are platforms that you don't necessarily have to invest a lot of money. Like for small businesses, they can use ways such as search engine optimization to be able to rank freely. Search engine optimization to be able to rank at the top of Google search results. So when you go to Google and you search for any product or service, there's usually an order in how the results appear, right? So this is due to what we call search engine optimization. And
how many people know how to make good use of search engine optimization?
So this is where there's a gap, in terms of knowledge, but then we are doing a lot of trainings, like I mentioned, to be able to empower these small businesses with the necessary skills and knowledge to be able to effectively do that. So SEO
for
is
a moment,
free.
let's turn this into a classroom and try to empower somebody who is watching this program. How do they do that exactly?
So one of the ways in optimizing your website to be able to rank highly on Google is when you have say a website. So you need to use the right keywords, so that when someone is searching, say, for digital marketing training in Kenya, right? And I am offering that service of digital marketing training. So you're able to rank highly. That means I'll need to use the right keywords in the title of my website. I'll be able to use
what,
the
for
right,
example?
Now the keywords here being digital marketing training, because that is my key service, right? So I put that as the title of my website. The thing which has brands, we are normally obsessed with our business names. So you create a website, you want to call it the name of your business. But ideally, you should call your website the name of the service you're offering, because when people are looking for you, they don't know you as the name of your business, but they know that they're looking for that service or product that you have. So from a SEO perspective, you need...
So if, for example, you're a mama mboga, or mama fua, as you call them, or mama pika, instead of giving yourself such a fancy name, you be simple, and then if you are in boga business, you put some boga somewhere.
Yeah, you could still have your brand name, but then the title of your website should read the service you're offering, like Mama Fua as the title of the website.
You can have
so that when someone is searching,
Fua services.
Exactly.
Or O'Brien Pika services.
Yes.
So that when I go to the search engine, when I type Pika, or Mama Boga, my name will be up there.
It ranks among the top. So usually keywords is one of the best ways in how you can utilize search engine optimization. The other way is to be able to content. Content is key in digital. We normally say content is king, actually. So in how you structure the content on your website, so if you're talking about a particular product or service, then when someone searches for that product or service, it should be able to lead them to that exact page that you're talking about, say, Mama Fua services. I shouldn't click on a site expecting Mama Fua services only to get that you're selling chocolates, because I will definitely drop off from that site, and it will influence part of your ranking. The other way is to make your website quite mobile friendly, because a lot of people are accessing the internet using mobile. 83% of users who are online, they are using their mobile phones. So you need to make your websites mobile friendly. You need to make your websites to be, in terms of speed, to be quite fast. They should be able to load faster on mobile. And
there's a way you can do that?
Yes.
How can you do that?
So there are tools online, like there are tools online that you can use to optimize your websites to be able to be mobile friendly. You can even check, like, is your site mobile friendly? Is your site, does your site load faster? Then the other thing is, one of the key things that Google is looking at the moment in terms of ranking is the security. So your website needs to be secure, especially if you're an e-commerce SME platform. Because of transactions and everything, like, your website has to be secure. So that's one of the things. And then also one of the things Google looks at is like traffic, like how many people like come to your website. So the higher your traffic, then the higher the way you will rank on Google searches. Yeah.
And those are some of the ways that you can use to influence, your ranking, on search engine sites. Yes. Because in the interest of time, I mean, we still have, some few minutes. I want you to talk to SMEs and drive in this whole point of why the ICT platform is critical for their survival and for their expansion as business.
Okay, so let me talk to the SMEs here. Like, one of the key components of ensuring that your business is key, especially in digital, you need to ensure that you have the right goals, you're reaching the right audiences, you're tracking the right metrics, and you're using the right platforms. Some of the platforms that you can use, one I've mentioned is search engine optimization. You can use social platforms like Facebook, like WhatsApp, to be able to grow your businesses. You can also leverage on a platform like paid ads, like programmatic advertising, which is display ads, where a scheme comes in. And you can also use like email marketing. You can also use WhatsApp marketing, and you can use influencer marketing. So as an SME, there are quite like some key platforms that you don't want to miss to be able to grow your businesses.
Very good. Anything else do we need to hear from Elsie?
Not really. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Elsie, thank you very much indeed for finding time to be with us here, and of course taking through various aspects of programmatic advertising, and of course how ICT is critical in the SMEs industry.
Thank you.
We'll be getting back to you, because this is an ongoing concern for many businesses. So whenever we call you, please show up.
Of course, I will.
Thank you very much,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, our conversation has been around, how SMEs can integrate ICT and, of course, innovation in their day-to-day running. Because, as we mentioned earlier on, about 70% of Kenyan SMEs will not celebrate their 5th anniversary because they'll close shop. And one of the reasons is because they don't have a proper bookkeeping solutions. They also have problems with the capital and, of course, marketing skills. These are some of the challenges, and of course, there are many of them. Birech Elsie has been very gracious to us, to SMEs, and of course, you have had so much from her. My name is Kimani. Can you just imagine, we've been here for the last almost 2 hours now, but we have to come to a close. We started with a coffee conversation, very interesting, and we concluded that we need to start consuming our own coffee. That's right. And we have brought this conversation to an end by empowering our SMEs and, of course, showing them the importance of integrating ICT and innovation in their business. It can't get better than this, I promise you. My name is Kimani. Thank you very much. This has been Biz Check. Remember, Kurunzi is coming up next. For me and the rest of the business team, enjoy the rest of your afternoon.